Well, happy Monday. We are back with another episode of Marvel Monday. I'm Keels, this is Teetz, and this week we're mixing it up a little bit and we are going to steamroll through not one, but two movies. Yes, my friends, it is a special double feature episode of Marvel Monday, and today we are discussing Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mixtape Volume 2. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. But again, we last saw you guys if you stayed up for CLC After Dark with us on Wednesday night. We got to see the debut of Marvel Avengers Campus at Disneyland, and it seems like it's very crowded. Very crowded. So it is definitely very popular. I've heard lots of great reviews about the food offerings in the land and some of the character interactions. And I know on social media, people were pretty quick to jump all over Web Slingers as being a thumbs down as a ride. But people are saying it's got quite a bit of rewritability. It's fun. But I think maybe it's just because Disneyland has been closed for so long. But I think a lot of the Disneyland fans are incredibly optimistic about what this whole land will ultimately be as it kind of grows and matures and maybe takes on different elements. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think I like how Disney kind of left this land open-ended compared to other lands that they've done recently, like Star Wars, where that's very timeline specific. So they're kind of set where, people have been wanting Mandalorian and stuff like that to come into that land, but they're not going to do that there. Whereas with Avengers Campus, as new movies come out, new shows happen, they can bring those characters into this land pretty easily.
Yeah, and, so like I said, I'm not a fan. So I actually, during the pandemic, I attempted to watch Star Wars, and I think I made it about 15 minutes into the very first one before I'm like, this is just too cheesy, even for me. There is not enough Tito's in the world that is going to get me through these. So I haven't seen Star Wars. But do you feel like Batuu and Star Wars Land and the Star Wars movies are more thematic and just like overall storyline, whereas the Marvel universe is more character driven?
Probably. I don't think with Star Wars you have something like the Millennium Falcon is like such an iconic thing that people were dying to see in person, whereas you have the Quinjet in Marvel, but I don't think people are as excited to kind of see that in person as they are, say, the characters, where we're seeing the Spider-Man stunt show, the Black Widow and Captain America, both of them, and Doctor Strange, those kind of things. So it's, I think, definitely more character heavy than, say, thematic land atmosphere type heavy.
I'm trying to get my camera back to working, and I don't know what happened. I don't want FaceTime. Come on, internet. Oh, yeah, it just showed my FaceTime. I'm going to unplug my camera real quick.
Okay.
Keep talking about Avengers Campus and just some of the reviews and things that you've been hearing.
So, yeah, I know one person that was there on opening day and then one person that was there this past weekend. And I know the person on opening day had trouble getting a boarding group through the first go-around, and they weren't letting anybody in. Basically, at least through most of the day, they weren't letting anybody in through the standby queue to get into the land unless you had a boarding group. So that was kind of problematic. People were waiting hours to just get into the land. And I know food-wise, opening day again, they ran out of a bunch of things by the end of the day. So there were some problems there. But I think after opening day, things kind of settled down a little bit. But the land is still very busy. People are spending a lot more time than I think maybe Disney expected in the land itself versus just the attractions. But I think a lot of that is because of the different character experiences, such as the Doctor Strange show or experience, whatever you want to call it. And then you have Black Widow does a little stunt show. and of course the Spider-Man Stuntronic launch that happens. So I think those are definitely some big things there. Web slingers, it's kind of hit or miss. Some people love it, some people hate it. Some people, I know one review I saw from the person that was there on opening day was that it's easier than Toy Story Midway Mania. You can score. It's a little easier to score on it. The technology works well. I didn't hear anybody specifically mention the upgrades that you can buy, so I don't know how well those worked. So I guess it's kind of, I haven't seen a whole lot about those things that you can buy to kind of change your experience on web slingers. I think because of the boarding groups, a lot of people aren't really riding it multiple times just yet because they aren't able to more than once per day. Yeah, I think that was mostly it for the land opening. I know then Disneyland Paris put up some quick updates on that they're still progressing, and they're also getting web slingers, but then they are getting a retheme of their Rock and Roller Coaster to feature Iron Man. So that, I believe, is 2022 or 23, one of those. So either next year or the year after, that's coming to Disneyland Paris.
Well, and they're also getting the New York hotel is going to be available.
Yep, that opens later this month. So.
And we've kind of seen concept art. We haven't seen any real pictures of it yet, but I think just that concept is pretty neat too. So I would love to see an Avengers hotel. But I think that's what makes me so excited. I want to say you and I talked about this over the weekend, and maybe it was Alicia Stella that tweeted it, and it was the perfect sentiment that if Web Slingers and the campus and the Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy all opened at the exact same time, this would be the most hyped and celebrated theme park edition, at least at Disney, but possibly on par with Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal. So, and I completely agree with that. But it's cool because it just shows that there's potential for growth and expansion just based on the characters. It's obviously going to be character driven, as we saw on Thursday, where basically Captain America passed off to new Captain America, to Captain Falcon, which we talked about that on our stream. Nobody coming that we'd already see a Sam as Captain America character suited up, ready to go in the land. So that was really, really neat. Like you were saying, I've had friends that were just lucky enough to get into the land because of mobile ordering for food. And it kind of was a cluster on that first day, but it seems like they're working out some of the kinks. It sounds very similar to the opening day of Pandora at Walt Disney World. Yeah. I was there for that, and a lot of the same kind of problems. So you think we figured that out, but everyone seems really happy going back for multiple visits, and which is expensive to do since annual passes don't exist in California right now. So I'm loving it. I think the feedback has been great. I'm like you. I haven't seen any of the bonus, the add-on merchandise and how that helps you. But you haven't been out there yet, so nobody has had a chance to sway you to buy any of that kind of stuff. So it'll be fun to see how it grows with the rest of the park and how it handles capacity when California opens up on June 15th. So just a little over a week, and we are back at it for California. In less than a week, in fact, in 2 days, we got dropping.
We have Loki finally coming out this Wednesday. And I think there has been I believe the embargo lifted yesterday for it. So a lot of reviews starting to come in. And people have just been absolutely loving it so far. I've heard, I'm not one that always, like, sometimes I'll leave myself for TV shows and movies to be spoiler free, but I did see a couple for this one, and the first couple episodes seem to go to some weird places, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
Well, and that's going back to kind of how the Marvel universe is really character driven. Loki is one of those incredibly multifaceted characters. You never know if he's good or bad. His intentions are good, and vice versa. So it's really great that we're getting to see a full backstory, or not a backstory, but a whole series dedicated to just him. And I did this again.
Anyways, so Loki. So I'm excited to see what comes with that. I know seems they would do a lot of time jumping. I know we go back in to obviously 1900s. We go forward in time. We're all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see just how this all fits in the grand scheme of the timeline and Phase 4 and all that stuff, because we have not yet seen Black Widow, which will be coming next month, just over a month from today. We got July 9th, I believe, that debuts in theaters and on Disney Plus. I know too, this week they dropped some the Marvel, I forget, they're little short, like 5-minute or so videos, like giving a backstory or a glimpse at what each character does. So they've been doing that with each series they've been dropping. So this week Loki had one drop. I know they did them with Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then with WandaVision. Yep.
So we've got that. I still have to finish up Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think that's on tap for me this week. I know I say that every week, but I think this week I'm actually going to do it. It's actually going to happen. I'm penciling myself in some me time to get to that. And then we're also less than a month from Black Widow.
Just over, right? July 9th. Yep.
July 9th. So a month and 2 days. And so Black Widow, that will be the 24th installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the movies as we know it, 24. And today, just now, we're going to review 11 and 12. So when we finish this episode, we are going to be officially halfway through all of the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So as long as I can stop fucking up my camera, I just moved my mouse because I think it's bumping into my cord, and that's why my camera keeps shorting out. I need a new camera anyway. But as long as I don't touch my camera again, I'm just going to just keep my hands like this so I don't touch anything. Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. We're going to knock them both out because they basically feed one straight into the other one. And we're going to tackle a lot of hard-hitting, deep discussions, like why is Rocket one of the best characters in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe? Also, literally, it's going to come in spoiler time. Why does Star-Lord ruin everything? Just everything. So let's get started and head into, we'll start off with Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Yeah, so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, because they put these in volumes, so we are in Volume 1, and directed by James Gunn, who did also direct the second one, and will direct the third one coming out, I think, next year, the year after, something like that, Volume 3. But yeah, so this one debuted August 1st of 2014.
James Gunn, who successfully avoided cancel culture.
Yes.
Because of some terrible tweets. He beat cancel culture. So take that, Republicans. It can be done. You can beat cancel culture. You can cancel culture. Talk to James Gunn.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. This movie made $773 million at the box office, and we start off this one back on Earth in 1988 in Missouri. We are in where we see a young boy, who we will learn his name is Peter, And he is listening to a Walkman because that will be a recurring thing throughout not only this film but the next one, because Peter loves listening to music.
If I can take a 20, this is also the story of the ride at Epcot that's going to be opening eventually.
Yeah, the whole thing was Peter Quill visited Epcot in the 80s, and that's somehow how they tied this ride into Epcot. Whatever. Anyways, moving on. We are in the hospital, and Peter's listening to his Walkman. His mother is on her deathbed, and they call Peter in to talk to his mom. She mentions what an angel his father was, yet his father is not there. We don't know quite yet where his father is, what the deal is with his father, but he's not there, and his mother apparently speaks very highly of the absent father figure. And so his mother then dies right there. Peter, of course, gets upset, and they tell him to sit outside. And, well, Peter doesn't sit outside. He runs outside, and outside the hospital, that is, and a spaceship appears and takes Peter Quill. And so that's where we then jump back to present day in this film, and we see Peter as a member of the Ravagers, led by Yondu. No, Marcus, I'm okay. It's on in the background. I do not need any updates on that. Anyways.
Literally, Marcus, in pre-show, he said he wished the Brewers were playing tonight so he could be distracted. And I said, oh, does this new super fan have a sad foam finger? He asked me earlier if they could just fire Bud in the middle at halftime of this game.
Back to Guardians of the Galaxy. So Peter
I gotta get back to my banners because I got another good one coming up here too.
So Peter is, we see Peter dancing to his music once again, because we know Peter loves music at this point. And
was it the Walkman that gave it away?
He's on a mission from Yondu to capture or retrieve some orb that apparently is wanted, and they'll get paid for. So he's out to get this orb, and he's on the planet Morag, and he's met by this guy named Korath the Pursuer, because apparently every villain in this film needs like a end title to their name. Like we have Korath the Pursuer, and we'll find Ronan the Accuser. So I mean, everybody needs.
You're Teetz the Tiny.
I don't know about that one, but
I thought we ran that by you already.
Anyways, so yeah, Korath the Pursuer works for Ronan the Accuser, and there's a small little battle that commences because Korath wants the orb, but then Peter also wants the orb because he's got to take it back to Yondu. So Peter's all like, well, why does this guy want the orb? Anyways, Peter somehow escapes this Korath guy and takes the orb, but he decides, well, because I guess this is highly sought after, I'm not going to take it back to Yondu. I'm going to take it to the broker myself and see what this thing is worth. So Peter, decides to do that. And then we're on Xandar, which will be the main planet of this film. And this is where we meet Groot and Rocket Raccoon. And we see Rocket is got some like scanning device. He's trying to find who his next target or bounty is going to be, because Rocket's all about himself and what he can do to make money and steal things and all those kind of things. So this is where we get
wrong about that.
And this is where we get our Stan Lee cameo, because he's scanning the crowd and there's Stan Lee. And so yeah, Stan Lee cameo, and then we now I lost my spot. Quill takes the orb to the broker, and the broker is inspecting it, and then Quill's like, yeah, some guy named Ronan or whatever wanted this thing. So I was like, I don't know what that was all about. And then the broker was all freaked out. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this. You take that back. I'm out of here. Get away. I don't want anything to do with the orb. So Peter then is shut out of the broker's place. I don't know what you want to call it, store, shop, whatever. Then we see our next character, Gamora, waiting outside, which I guess I kind of skipped over the little part where we do kind of meet Gamora earlier because Ronan has found out that he didn't get the orb. So we now need, he needs to retrieve the orb. So he sends Gamora to do so. But we also there meet Gamora's sister, Nebula. They're not blood related because one's blue and one's green. But we have two sisters who are the daughters of our grand titan, Thanos, who is, of course, our overarching villain for the entire Infinity Saga. If you didn't know that by now, that's your own fault. But
so here's my quick take on this. The reason why these movies are important is because we established the Thanos story and the role that Thanos is going to play for the next 12, well, at least 11, probably 12 movies afterwards. Other than that, these movies are just Pirates of the Caribbean in space.
So back to Xandar, and we find Gamora as outside the broker's place, and she's like, well, what the heck happened in there? She doesn't know who Peter is at this point, but she wants to retrieve the orb because she was sent by Ronan to do so. And Gamora, they have a little battle scene because Gamora's fighting Peter, and Peter's like, well, I ain't giving this to you. I don't know who you are. And then we end up with because Rocket and Groot then get involved because Rocket can't, avoid whatever's going on. So then we see the Xandarian military jump in, and they're all captured and taken to a prison out in space called the Kiln, which will be another place where we meet some great characters. And our next big introduction, I should say, is Drax, who is in jail, and he's played by Dave Bautista. And
he's the big little guy right above my head.
Yep. And
that's him.
Drax sees that Gamora is now in jail, and Drax is not happy about that, and he wants to kill Gamora because Ronan, who Gamora worked for and is involved with, killed his family, and Drax is all about the revenge he can get for his family being killed. Quill comes in, being the sweet talker that he is, and tries to reason with Drax, saying, no, we need her. We're going to lure Ronan in with her, and then you can kill Ronan, and you don't have to worry about Gamora. So that was his whole plan there. Then we jump back to Ronan and Thanos have a little meeting. We learn that, or we see that they're not on the best of terms at this point. Ronan's is pretty upset with Thanos. Thanos is like, you better get me that orb or else I'm going to kill you. Ronan doesn't seem very afraid by that, but maybe he should be. So then we go back to the Kiln, and Rocket and the group of them are devising this plan to escape because Rocket says he can escape this because he's escaped prisons like 22 times or whatever it was. So he's got this big plan that they're going to get to escape. And so they basically execute it. Rocket sends Quill to get a prosthetic leg, which in the end, Rocket just wanted as a joke. He didn't actually need the leg, but that's just Rocket for you. Because the big thing about these movies is there's a lot of comedic relief points, and I think they're just a lot of fun in that sense. So they escape the prison and they get Quill's ship, but we can't leave before Quill gets his Walkman back because he cannot live without his Walkman. So he has to go back and kill a guard who took his Walkman because it was not in his box when he went to retrieve his belongings. Walkman was secured. He flies back out to his ship while they're waiting for him, and off they go. So then we get Yandu is now meeting with the broker, figuring out what the heck is going on because Quill, obviously didn't come back and took his orb, and there's a whole thing there. And the broker's like, I can't reveal, who wanted this and whatever else. And Yandu's big thing is his little flying arrow that he whistles, and he can kill people with. So of course he threatens the broker with that.
That will become important later as well.
The group of them on the ship then happens upon a place called Nowhere, because nowhere is nowhere. It's not somewhere. Quill,
and you know how it's spelled with a K.
And
with a K, like no. Know, hair. Nowhere.
Quill, so then they're on Nowhere, devising their next move, and this is where Quill does more of his sweet talking, tries to make a move on Gamora with his Walkman. Didn't work, because Quill is Quill.
He's so cringe. He's so cringe. You may have more game than Quill does.
That's saying something.
He's just so cringe. Like, I'm just like, oh, give it up, my God. This is hard to watch.
So on Nowhere, Gamora says she has a buyer for the orb, and she goes to meet with him, who we then see as Taneleer Tavon, who I forget which. Where we see him in the end credits of
Thor: Dark World.
Yes. So the Collector, as we previously saw,
they went to go sell. They went to keep one because they could keep one, the Tesseract on Asgard, but they didn't want to have two Infinity Stones together, so they send one to the Collector to hold on that. Well, now the Collector knows he can kind of, the Collector ain't dumb. Anyway.
Yep. So then we see the Collector.
Hold on. Keep talking. I'm going to do something for you real quick.
Okay.
Thanks, Marcus.
The Collector then takes the orb and he opens it up, and this is where we discover what actually this orb is. It's not just an orb. The orb is protecting what is inside, which is another Infinity Stone. And as previously mentioned, of course, the Collector knows about the Infinity Stones, what they're capable of, and already has the one or two in his possession. So why would he not want a third? Anyways, then his slave, who was with him, decides, I'm done with you, and grabs a hold of the Infinity Stone while they're in there, and she explodes, and the whole place basically blows up. Then we get Ronan shows up, and Yondu, and they're both out to get Quill in the group because they both, obviously Ronan wants the stone, and Yondu just wants basically to kill Quill at this point. The group, or the Ronan's army, goes after them, but Drax has got other plans. He's like, I'm going to battle Ronan. This is my time. Drax does not stand a chance against Ronan. Ronan is quite the godly-like figure, and Drax just, even though he may look like it, isn't quite there. Nebula then at this point the group escapes into some pods, and they're up in the air, but trying to escape Ronan's army. Nebula eventually hits Gamora's pod, because Gamora has the Infinity Stone at this point, and as they go out into space, they take the orb, and Gamora is sent out there floating to her death. But Quill, being the lover boy that he is, has to go out and save her, puts his oxygen mask or whatever you want to call it on her to save her.
It's like a full face snorkel mask.
Yeah. Before he
It's
does
like
that,
leather
though,
or whatever.
he does call Yandu to give him his location so they can come and capture them, basically to save them.
Do you want to take a 20 real quick and just see what I just got you?
Sure. Oh boy. Do they open them up?
Yeah, I got you October 1st and October 2nd.
Oh yeah, I just got a tweet too of that. Huh.
Yeah, Marcus just texted me. Thank you, Marcus.
Well, there we go. Now I just have to actually go.
You're welcome,
Perfect.
Teetz.
Well, thank you.
All right. Where were we?
Well, we had.
I was trying to listen to you, but I was like going so fast.
So Nebula got the Infinity Stones. So they go off, and Drax was thrown in a pool to his eventual supposed death. But Groot goes.
All with the exception of Rocket and Quill die at least once or twice in these movies, but never truly really die.
Oh, that's for sure. So Groot, being Groot, tries to save Drax. Ronan takes the orb and gets out of there. Ronan decides, I'm not giving this damn thing to Thanos. I'm keeping it for myself because I know what it's capable of. And he essentially takes the stone and powers himself up and his scepter thing, hammer, I don't know what you want to call it.
I think it's they basically call it a hammer.
So he basically infuses it in that, and so now he's this all-powerful being, and he wants to now, of course, take on Thanos because Thanos is the next, or the godlike Titan that they want to that Ronan's now after. But anyways, then we go and find. First, then Rocket takes the ship, and they find because at this point, Quill and Gamora are with Yondu. Yondu wants to kill Quill and Gamora, and there's a whole thing there. Yeah, and Quill's like Quill, being the swindler that he is, again reasons with Yondu and is like, wait, you don't want to kill us, you need us. So then he reasons out a deal, and of course, they are not dead, but here comes Rocket in Quill's ship to try to save them, and Quill gets on the mic, on the intercom or whatever it is, and says, wait, Rocket, we're okay. They're gonna work with us. It's okay. So then they have a plan with Yondu. They're kind of skeptical of Quill's plan because it only has like a 14% chance at working or something. So they're like, I don't know about this plan. But in the end, they go with the plan because that's what they do in Marvel films.
When in doubt, you let the dumbest one lead you.
Yeah, so they alert the Xandarian army of that Ronan is out to get them. That he wants to obliterate the planet of Xandar, and so Ronan's ship is on the way to take care of Xandar, but they have a plan in place so that they are going to essentially hijack or get on the ship and kill Ronan, while the Xandarian military links all their ships together and creates like a giant web to try to hold the ship from coming to the ground. While all the Ronan's military vehicles or whatever like dive bomb the city as people are fleeing everywhere. They get in and they don't actually kill Ronan. They have their plan works until the very end where Quill shoots his thing at Ronan and he doesn't die. He's still there. It basically doesn't affect him. But the ship, the the ship crashes down to the ground, and they're all on there, but they all survive. And at the end, so then Ronan walks out as they're all coming together. They all come to, and I forget. So then it was, how did it happen? Because they had like he had the stone, and then they used the rocket, like reinvigorated the gun that they used earlier, and shot the hammer, and so the hammer then, like, the stone comes out of the hammer, and Quill jumps and tries to grab it. He grabs it. Well, it's like overtaking his body. It's going to kill him or whatever. But then he links arms with everybody else, Gamora and Drax and Groot and
Rocket. And
Rocket.
So they spread out the power. They spread out the power between all of them. And then the fourth, like, direct all the power toward Ronan and destroy him.
Yep. And so then Ronan's dead.
And then
they say okay. And then we see
Gamora. Always quick thinking, that Gamora. Always looking out for A#1, Gamora. She's not a dumb like Jane or anyone else. She's proactive. Gamora takes the stone and immediately puts it in another orb.
Yep. And so then Yondu is set to get the orb and take it, because Yondu, that was their deal for him helping him out. Well, then they switch the orb and give a Yondu an orb that was empty, didn't have the Infinity Stone. So they still have the Infinity Stone, so they have that in safekeeping. As Yondu's taking off, he says that Quill, when they picked him up, was supposed that he was hired to take him to his father. So at the very beginning of this movie, when we saw him picked up at the ship, well, that was Yondu hired for a job to take him. Well, Yondu never took him to his father, kept him for himself. And this will, of course, then lead into our second film. The Xandarian military relieves them of all their previous charges, and they're all fine and great. And Quill gets a brand new ship, and they go off to become the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. So we just get a little in Volume 1, we get a little dose of, because every Avenger has some dad issues, and now we see just a little hint of what is to come in Volume 2, and that's Peter Quill and his dad, or his dad that he doesn't know about. They call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy because just kind of mocking Ronan, but then, they're celebrated, their criminal history is completely expunged, like, they're all heroes now, and they have, like, Quill learns a little bit about his background, and that they've deciphered that he is, like, part alien. He's part human, or half human, and his father belongs to, like, an ancient alien race that they haven't yet encountered, but they know about. And then the Guardians leave, and we also see poor little Groot is just like a stick, or like a little twig now. He's just a little stick.
So,
and
Rocket put him in a
put him in a pot.
Yeah.
Put him in a pot so he can grow back. And then to close out, we just see the Collector sitting in his destroyed House of Collections. And because it's the 80s, who do we see? Howard the Duck.
Yep.
Which you have no idea who that is anyway. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 1. It's really good for backstory, develop you. So now we kind of know, like, the plot is forming what is the end game of all of this story. We start to see it develop. We don't know that Thanos is truly the big bad guy, but we're starting to get a real idea that maybe he's someone that we need to pay more attention to going forward. But now we have identified how many Infinity Stones by this point.
Trace.
3. And we know who possess each of these Infinity Stones. So we head on. All right. So what are your thoughts on the first volume of Guardians of the Galaxy?
It's fun. I think it's a lot of, like I said previously, it's a lot of comedic relief. They do, a lot of jokes and stuff. Rocket is essentially your comedian of the whole, both this movie and the next one. Drax is very, very literal, so he'll, some things he says can be funny too. And of course, Groot is everything's I am Groot, so that's his big thing. Overall, I think it's just a fun movie. I don't know. It's this one is kind of setting some things up again. We're setting up where the stones and Thanos. We're setting up the second film where we are eventually going to meet Peter's father and stuff like that. So it's a lot of setup type stuff again.
So yeah, like I said, it's important to learn about Thanos. It's important to know. Now we know what the pursuit is. The pursuit is these stones, and somehow all these different factions of the space, be it like magic space or normal space, everyone kind of has a concept of what we're all looking for at this point. So that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Volume 2, we start off with a really quick flashback again. And so this one is called Awesome Mixtape Volume 2, which I think it also could just be called Guardians of the Galaxy Daddy Issues, because it's not an origin story of a male character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe if he doesn't have some kind of issue with his father. And little did we know, and little did Peter know, boy, his father is a mess. A mess. So I'll let you start this off. I'm going to let her out real quick, and I'll be right back.
Okay. And so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 debuted in May of 2017. Made a little bit more than the first, $863 million at the box office. As mentioned, we do start out with a flashback back in 1980 in Missouri. Back on Earth, we see a couple driving in a Mustang, and we learn that these are Peter's parents. His dad is played by Kurt Russell. One thing I think we see in all these Guardians films is the casting is just you have a ton of big names. We'll see some others coming up in this one as well, but just like your title characters for the Guardians and others that play in this film, there's a lot of big names. But yeah, so then we flash back to present day, and we see the Guardians are trying to protect some and get some batteries or whatever, and from this, and then this giant alien type beast is going to eat them, or I don't know. So they have to kill the beast. And we just have little baby Groot is just dancing along as the title credits roll and actions happening in the background. And he's just dancing along to the music that's playing, because of course music a big part in this film. The group saves the batteries from the beast, and then they take them into the sovereign leader Aisha.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
What is cuter, Baby Groot or Baby Yoda?
Baby Yoda.
That was the wrong answer. But go ahead.
So they save the batteries and they take them to the sovereign leader Aisha. The sovereigns, in exchange, give the Guardians Nebula, who we all of course know is Gamora's sister. And Gamora wants nothing to do with her. They're going to take her to Xandar to be put in jail. So then they go off, and of course, once again, Quill, his little swindling lover boy ways, has a moment with Aisha. They're going to make real babies or something. I don't know. Anyways,
I'll have time to talk to you about how that works.
Rocket, of course, in turn, as they're leaving, they learn that Rocket stole some of the batteries, because then they realize they're being shot at by the Sovereign Army, and they're like, well, why are we being shot at? We just helped them. Oh, Drax is like, yeah, Rocket took some batteries. So, of course, then they have to escape that. They find a jump point and just barely make it through as they're saved by some white egg-looking spaceship with a guy on top. And they make it through the jump point and crash land into this forest. And then the ship appears and comes down, and they are greeted by two individuals, one Mantis and the other Ego, who introduces himself as Peter's father, as I mentioned, played by Kurt Russell. And so then, introduces himself, and then we go off and see Yandu is with the group of Ravagers, and this is where another big name comes in. Sylvester Stallone is in this movie, and he is one of a Ravager leader. They essentially like banish Yandu for what he's done in the past, and then Aisha shows up to talk to Yandu because she's like, well, they stole from me, so now we need to get back at them. But of course, they're in like some like wintry planet, and Aisha's got her like guards rolling out this stupid long, not a red carpet, but a blue carpet, and because she can't walk on snow because she's too like pristine. So that's the whole thing with the sovereign people. They're very like, I don't know, like upper class. They're ritzy people. And
they're super, super bougie.
Yeah. So then we go back to Ego and Peter, and Ego then explains what we learned at the very end of the last movie, in that he hired Yandu to come pick you up when his mom died, but Yandu never took him to his father. Ego explains he is a Celestial, which is just the very first instance of a Celestial we see, which will come up later again in the Eternals later this year. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Peter, Gamora, and Drax then head off with Ego on his ship to his home planet, while Rocket and Groot and Nebula stay back with the ship as Rocket repairs it. Yandu and the Ravagers find the ship with Rocket. Rocket has a bunch of booby traps set up to try to get rid of them. It works for a bit, but then, of course, Yandu comes in with his arrow, and Rocket's like, well, I can't avoid this. And so then Yandu and Rocket reason a bit, and then Nebula is inside the ship, and Groot breaks her out because Groot doesn't know better at this point. Back to the planet, Ego explains that he is the planet. He created a human form in order to go to Earth, and then that's how he met Peter's mother and all that kind of stuff.
It's an avatar. It's essentially an avatar, just like in Pandora. Turn Pandora into Marvel Land.
And then the Ravager group, there's some outliers that aren't too happy with Yandu. They know he's been kind of exiled, and Taserface is now going to be the new face of the Ravager group. And Yandu and Rocket are thrown into a jail cell. We learn that Nebula wants to hurt Thanos after she hurts Gamora first, because she's got to get back at Gamora, because Gamora's always been the favorite child. She's always beat her up. She's always, been number one, and Nebula can't take that. So she wants to first kill Gamora, but then also kill Thanos and make sure he finds all the hurt that he has caused her over this time, because Nebula has been the forgotten child. Peter argues with Ego over leaving and never coming back to see his mother. They have this big thing, and Ego's like, well, I had to come back here, otherwise my planet would die and I would die, and that just wouldn't work. Ego's like, Peter, you have power. You're connected to this planet, and then shows him how to connect to that power. And then they play catch with the glowing ball because Peter has always wanted to play catch with his dad because that's what all the boys did when he was little, and he never had a dad. So daddy issues continue.
Why so cringy? So cringy. This is not Field of Peter.
And then at this point, I did skip over it, but I'll mention it now. On the ship on the way back to the planet, we learned that Mantis has a power where she can essentially read feelings of people and know what's going on inside them.
She's an empath.
Yeah. So while she doesn't do a whole lot of it because she's just usually with Ego, she uses those powers to help him sleep. So we learn. So then that's where we see another comedic moment where she holds on to Peter and she's like, "You're romantically in love with her," and then she points at Gamora, and Drax thinks it's the most hilarious thing ever.
I'm sure, and Gamora's eyes just roll straight out of her head, hit the floor, and keep rolling.
So then we get back, and Drax and Mantis on the planet have a little bonding moment. They're sitting there talking, figuring out their life stories or whatever. Mantis is about to tell Drax something about Ego, but Gamora walks in and stops her, and then Gamora's like, "What were you about to tell him?" She's tell him, and she was like, "Oh, nothing important, whatever," and walks away. And then we go back to Rocket, and he is in the jail cell making fun of Taserface because his name's Taserface. And that's where I end.
All right. And so I'm going to shuffle through this. It's really just going to get to the bottom of what is going on with Ego. So Rocket is making fun of Taserface. And at this point, Taserface also takes Groot, poor little Groot, and turns him into a mascot for his crew on the Collector. And then Nebula, because she can't be trusted either, nefarious ass Nebula, she takes the ship, and this is when she leaves because she's got to kill Gamora. Like, literally, she is just so consumed with this jealous hatred she has to kill Gamora because she thinks that's why Thanos always would torture her. It was all because of Gamora. So, so while they're in the jail cell, Rocket and Yondu just kind of start talking, just chat, and they find out that they have a lot in common, including, then the subject goes to how Yondu feels about Ego, and he basically tells Rocket that he was hired by Ego to take Quill and give it to him, but he knew that it wasn't for the right reasons. This is like our bachelorette moment. So instead, he did take Quill, but he kept him away from Ego so he could keep him safe. This is when Groot to steal the Yaka arrow to help him escape, and is kind of stopped from that by a Ravager that's loyal to Yondu. But that way, Rocket, Groot, Yondu, they all escape in this section that kind of breaks off. And then it's like a chase scene. We have a million of these in every movie. But they get there in time to get to Ego's Island to help Peter. Because God knows Peter can't help himself. Taserface tells the Sovereign what's going on right before Yondu kills him. And the rest of them, like Ravagers. Meanwhile, here's Nebula. She shows up at Ego's Island and tries to kill Gamora. And of course, Gamora survives. And fool me once, she and Nebula kind of make up and form a truce. They're going to get through this together. And they're going to figure out what's going on this weird kind of crazy island that Ego lives on and says he's part of and is part of him and all of this. They start kind of cruising through these caverns beneath the planet, and they just come across bodies, skeletal, all these remains of everything. And then it's at that point in time that old Peter's daddy turns out to be not a great guy, and it kind of reveals his whole big plan. He traveled the universe and literally spread his seed everywhere with women of different makes, models, you name it, and just had babies all over the place. Um, Especially life forms that I think he said he found disappointing. I think that was the phrase he used. And he planted all of these seedlings on these thousands of worlds that would terraform into new extensions of him. So basically, Ego is out here creating this master race of celestials that are modeled after him. But he needed a second celestial's power to activate all of these seedlings. So he had children, so he just starts having all these kids all over the place, hoping one of them sticks. And then he hired Yondu's Ravagers to go and collect all of these kids and bring them back to him to kind of see what could access the celestial power. And it's like every other one, when it didn't work out, because typical what you have when your daddy doesn't love you and you can't do what you want, what he needs you to do, he just murders you. So it's like every other child, the ego's like, nope, 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 nope. But somehow the world's biggest dummy in space, who can't do a damn thing right, is the key that ego needs to unlocking all of these seedlings to help them start terraforming, and that is Peter Quill. Apparently he can harness this power, and because Peter is just so desperate to have his daddy love him, he's like mesmerized by it. So he goes along with it and helps Ego start activating these seedlings to start terraforming that are eventually going to consume every world and every person. And then, Peter's going along with it. This is great. Me and my dad making this happen. This is exciting. I'm part of this planet. And then Ego slips that he killed Peter's mom on purpose. And Peter's not happy about that. So he fights, so he's gonna handle that. And so at this point, it's Mantis is back with the group. She's with Gamora, Drax, and Nebula. And she decides to let the cat out of the bag. She wanted to tell Drax this secret a while ago. And so now she's letting it out, what Ego's plan is to, take over all of the space, all of the universe, every planet, every existence. And that's right where Rocket and Group and Yondu arrive. And all reunited, except without Quill. Probably better without him. The Guardians are all back together. And they fight through some drones. They get to Ego's Island. Listen. And there's some stuff there's a thick thing. They can't get into Ego's brain. Group may plant a bomb made from the stolen batteries that Rocket got. Peter fights Ego, and then the bomb explodes and Ego melts away. Yondu flies in and saves Quill because Quill is incapable of taking care of himself. And then ultimately sacrifices himself to keep Peter safe, which is again so dumb because we've seen that he brings absolutely nothing to the table. Literally nothing to the table. What does he do? We're like 2 minutes. Well, we're way into overtime, but we're like 2 minutes from spoiler time where we talk about how he just can't do anything helpful. So, so Yondu sacrifices himself because he came to think of Peter as like his adopted son. So again, playing into Peter's little dumb tiny pea brain and emotional desires. But they cremate him and they spread his ashes in space. Meanwhile, Nebula takes off again, so she's going to go kill Thanos herself. Good luck with that. He's like 98 times your size. And then a swarm of Ravager ships show up and they surround the Guardian ship, and it turns out that Rocket sent word about Yondu's sacrifice, and the Ravagers came to perform like some ceremonial thing, a funeral, so he's back with them. Anyway, Nothing else matters after that point.
Don't forget about the famous line that Yondu says, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." That's the big thing. We also do the Stan Lee cameo is while Groot or not Groot, Rocket and Kraglin, Yondu's little sidekick, is they're bouncing through space, and we see them pass through this little jump point where then Stan Lee is sitting on a rock talking to some alien life forms or whatever.
Oh, the Watchers.
Yep.
The Watchers.
And
but yeah, so I think the only thing else is we see Aisha again, and hey, guess what? She's in a birth pod and she's super knocked up with a male being inside that she decides to name Adam. Groot is growing. We see Stan Lee, and really that's it. Like, this movie stopped having importance after they kill Ego.
We should say that the Adam Park thing, if you're a comics fan with Adam Warlock, which that could present something for the future of Marvel that we have yet to see. I'm sure it will, because why would they bring it up if it didn't? We have yet to see that tie-in, but it is present in this movie.
Because who are we to say? Do we know who had the baby with Aisha? Anyway, like I said, Guardians, fine. It stopped. This movie was done with essentially when Nebula goes back off to try and kill Thanos. Notice how we just completely dropped the entire story about like the Infinity Stones and any of this other nonsense. It is literally just daddy issues. Peter and Ego, Gamora, Nebula, and Thanos. That's it. So again, these are two movies kind of like Iron Man 1 and 2 that really could have just been put together. You only need 30 minutes out of this second Guardians movie. TBH.
Yeah, I can see that. I think a lot of this is setting up things that we have yet to see, like the Celestial, Adam, stuff like that.
And so with that, the Eternals will come out before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, correct?
Yep.
So it's going to go Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, the Eternals,
then I think Thor, Love and Thunder,
and then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, The Search for Gamora. Because what we know is these Guardians never truly die.
That's true, yes.
So, next time we see Gamora, she's going to be flinging herself over a cliff, a soul for a soul. Like, it's not her decision. Thanos makes it for her. We'll see her in Endgame doing that. But then she comes back. No, we see that in Infinity War, and then she comes back magically, and against her better judgment, she's like, I was with this guy, and Nebula's like, it was either him or a tree, and she probably would have just gone with Groot now if she had her wits about her. So again, these movies, like I said, are kind of like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie in space. But boy, these Guardians are just screw-ups. Like, none of them can do anything right. And it's so funny that they like to think that they're a team when, with the exception of like Mantis, they're all kind of just still looking out for number one, and that's me. Like, just in general. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of this, I think a lot of with these movies, it's just, I don't know. I guess maybe you're right in that they are too long for what we get out of them. But I think there are a lot of setting up. They don't really overall do much for the Infinity Saga. I'm interested to see what pieces.
The first one does. The second one, not so much.
With the stone, yeah. I'm interested to see if what we get from this that shows up in Phase 4 now.
Yeah, and the Eternals and in Guardians 3, which I almost wish like they hadn't, because there's a potential that this one pairs better with Guardians 3 than it does with Guardians 1. And it almost seems like it was just excessive to rush it out, because I know the first one was insanely popular and mostly because of the music.
Yeah.
You know, and it was something different. Yeah, they're in space. Yeah, they're superheroes per se, but they're like your anti-hero, if that makes sense. Not in, well, actually kind of like in a Deadpool way, but not as R-rated as Deadpool is. Because I'm going to say these movies came out around the same time as Deadpool did.
Yeah, I think so.
So anyway, we've made it. High five. We are halfway through. By the way, we are halfway through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this is my second time through doing this exercise. It is your first time, and we're actually closing in on the end of the second phase. Is that where we're calling them phases?
Yes.
We settled on?
Phase.
I'm gonna make a post-it note that up there that says phase, because I think I was saying cycles, which doesn't feel right either. Thanks. Throw me under the bus like that. Because I think the second phase ends with Civil War or Ultron. We had a big discussion about this last week.
Because technically, if you're going by what is on, because obviously we're doing it in timeline order versus when the release order, technically Guardians Volume 2 is part of Phase 3, not Phase 2 if you're going in release order.
Okay, but in chronological order, we had a big discussion about this last week, or maybe Mr. Worldwide and I did on Dark World. And I think we were going back and forth on what ends Phase 2 and starts Phase 3, and it's got to be Civil War, right? Is Civil War the end of 2 or the start of 3?
Well, Civil War, because if I'm reading this, it's Civil War is pre-Infinity War, so I got to think. Infinity War is Phase 3, so.
This says that it's Phase 2 ends with Ant-Man, so that means Civil War starts Phase 3.
Yeah, so Ant-Man is after Ultron.
Well, so
for us.
So we are getting, so next week we've got Age of Ultron, which I've said it before, and I'm so excited for Teetz to watch this because it's going to be glaring, like out of when it was released and just out of context, Ultron is just so fucking weird. It makes no sense at all. But now that you've seen all the movies now leading up to it, and you've seen WandaVision, I'm just going to say it. Age of Ultron is the linchpin that holds the entire cinematic universe together. It just starts making crazy sense because it also starts the roll of movies that just run us straight through. There is not a terrible movie in the bunch starting next week with Age of Ultron. We go Age of Ultron, we go Ant-Man, we go Civil War, we go Spider-Man Homecoming, which is great, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Ragnarok, Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, that may be but then Endgame, and then Spider-Man Far From Home, and then Black Widow.
I'm wondering if I will have a new appreciation for I'm wondering if I'll have a new appreciation for the Ant-Man films, because my first go around, I'm not a big Ant-Man fan.
So I think you will. I'm not gonna say why. I just think you will. And I think when you watch it this way, you'll see just ultimately carrying the vision of the Avengers forward, why he is so, like the Pym particles and all that, he is so important to Avengers Campus. I'm not going to say anything else. I'll wait until we get to that point. And it will absolutely make sense. Ant-Man and the Wasp is okay. It's fine. The first Ant-Man is excellent though. And I like the kind of comparison you can make between Scott and Tony Stark. Because one actually does know about actual time travel, and Tony just kind of tries to make things work to figure it out. So that's all I'm going to say about that one. But we're into the sweet spot. I'm so excited. We're going to have, when we get to Black Panther, it's a 2-hour episode.
You going to take that one on your own?
I'll lead this one. I could tell you what happens in Black Panther.
I was going to say.
Start to finish.
You don't even need notes.
I don't even need notes. You know what? Also, if you need I can quote the entire last hour of Endgame. If you need that too, I can just sit here and just start running through it. So, yeah, I'm ready. We've made it. We've fought through all the crap, and now we're about to get to the good stuff. It's all starting to make sense. And so thanks to the Guardians for at least one movie trying to be pertinent in the realm. I will take Teetz's advice under advisement and not shit all over volume 2 until we see the Eternals. And I think you're right. And so how are you enjoying watching the movies this way so far?
I mean, we've obviously touched on it pretty much every week, but I like how things just kind of fit together this way. I kind of forgot. It's been a while since I've watched these films too. I don't tend to revisit any movie really a lot. So I've only watched a handful of them a few times. I know like Infinity War and Endgame I both saw in the theaters twice. And then
Did you cry?
And then of course a couple times.
You did?
A couple times at home I saw them as well, but otherwise a lot of them I've really only just seen once. I don't tend to revisit them much. So this is really a really big refresher for a lot of these movies. So it's been a while since I've seen both of them. Obviously I didn't finish the second one fully, but what I got through, and I think I kind of forgot how the first one kind of fits in the whole Infinity Stone thing so much. And then now knowing what we know going forward and watching what I did of the second one and seeing how it may play into future films that we have coming up, I think that was a big thing too.
Yeah. I still think they're like just big space fuck ups. You know, you can't count on them for anything. And we'll see that again in Infinity War and Endgame. Because we really don't see them again like in mass or in we see them in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
We see some of them in Ragnarok. But yeah, we don't see the rest of them like in mass or as the true Guardians of the Galaxy until we get to Infinity War and Endgame, which is not that far away. So it's cool. It's like I said, everything pieces together so well. It's so brilliant. And when you see how many years apart they're written, it just goes to show you the brilliance of the writers and the illustrators for Marvel in the comic books and just the different variations and storylines that they tell and that they progress from the original characters even to what their modern updates and modern storylines and different lives and different cycles that they lead, how they've been able to just piece everything together. It's so cool. I think it's one of the reasons why I love the Marvel movies over, say, like DC and DC Comics and all of that. So I enjoy it. I don't like the Guardians. They're not my favorites. Like I said, they're just
not my favorite either.
But it's fine. I can't wait. It all gets real next week.
Well, I would think maybe not next. Ant-Man's next week, isn't it? And then, or no, Ultron, then Ant-Man, right? That's what we got? Okay, Ultron, yep. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, I may watch Ultron. No, that's a lie. I'm going to watch the last hour of Endgame. It's what I do after every Marvel stream. Literally, by the time we actually get to Endgame, I'm just going to take the last hour of our stream and just do a one-woman show of the last hour of Endgame.
Well, I'm sure that will be a long one too, because that's a 3-hour movie and to begin with. So
yeah, these two Guardians movies came in at right around, again, 2 hours, maybe a little bit over. It could have been one, but that was a great point that Teetz brought up, was we did learn what a celestial was. And like when I did this the first time through, I didn't even know that they were going to do the Eternals as a phase 4 kind of direction they were taking the movie. So that was enjoyable for me to learn. Anyway, any other last things you've got? If you guys are enjoying this Marvel content and you're watching us on Twitch, hit that purple follow button. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button, hit the bell notification. You never know when we're going to go live with a special show like Teetz's Tuesday Takes or CLC After Dark. I'm hoping we're going to have a Sunday stream pretty soon to talk about summer plans. You've got a trip countdown that is now officially under a month. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, it's not a Disney trip either, even though I did schedule 2 park passes just in case, but it is a Universal focus trip. So there will be Marvel there because Marvel is at Universal in Orlando. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be some new things, in some new hotels, Volcano Bay. So it'll be exciting. But I probably will sneak over to Disney for a day just because.
Yes, it's going to be impossible. Worst case, you just go to Springs and get your homecoming fix.
I have thought about that too.
Yeah. So Teetz is going to be there July 4th weekend. Courtney will be there in middle of July. I will be there middle through the end of July. So we're going to have lots of content, new content, maybe not live streams per se, but follow us on our blog at crescentlakeclub.com. And if there's anything you want to see while we're there, let us know so we can take pictures. Let us know on our socials. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I think maybe Snapchat. Did you just sign up for Snapchat?
I did not. I didn't even consider Snapchat.
Did you personally just sign up for Snapchat?
No, I've had a Snapchat for quite a long time.
Interesting. I don't think I was imagining seeing something.
I mean,
anyway.
The only thing maybe I consider is TikTok as our next thing, but
I'm too old for that. Yeah, I want to see TT's TikToks. That would be amazing.
I'll have Sid help me.
TT's TikToks. But yeah, hit us up on our social media if you want to see anything from when we're there. Teetz and I will be Universal heavy. Courtney and I will be Disney heavy. I may even do some reconnaissance to SeaWorld and check out some resorts and other things that are going on. Then, just confirmed, we've got our big October trip. 50th anniversary of Disney. And then, fingers crossed, the inaugural sailing of the Carnival Mardi Gras. So we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to look forward to. Maybe a Disneyland trip for me this summer. We'll see how things shake out. But we're going to have some really great content. So make sure you guys follow along and get subscribed so you know next time we go live. Like I said, I'm hoping we have a Sunday show in the next 2 weeks and get the whole gang together and talk about our plans for the summer because we all have a lot of stuff going on that's really fun. You got anything else?
Only thing I was going to mention is tomorrow, the second edition or next volume in my Making Memories 50th anniversary look back at Walt Disney World Entertainment. Tomorrow is the 1980s parades of the Magic Kingdom. So we're moving on up a decade. Last week was the 70s, and this week will be the 1980s.
Exciting. Yeah, Teetz has a really, really great content schedule put together for basically the celebration of Walt Disney World. He's got a lot of great stuff coming. So make sure you follow us on our blog at crescentlakeclub.com. And that's Crescent with an S. I know it was hard for people at Disney IT to spell. Crescent has an S. Anyway, so from the entire Crescent Lake Club, from Teetz, from me, thank you guys once again for joining us here on Marvel Monday. We'll be back same time, same place. And then don't forget, Courtney and I will be here on Wednesday for another Wind Down Wednesday. And we already have a ton of travel news to talk about. Lots of changes going on at the parks, specials, things to start thinking about. Maybe we'll just go ahead and get a jump on some of that summer travel talk. So we'll be back here at 8 o'clock Central Time again. But anyway, thank you guys so much, and we will see you real soon.